So again, welcome everyone. We're going to switch over to senior living and we are in our demo site and we're going to go ahead and we're going to start the new evaluation. We'll go ahead and pick Fred because he's been overdue for over a year. So we'll go ahead and do a new evaluation on Fred today. I'm not able to copy over as you will be tomorrow. Hopefully if things go well, but just know it is matrix, so sometimes I have trouble pushing these out. We're going to go ahead and start the new template. It is called 3.2 for Minnesota. So again, instead of it being called at the beginning a monitoring assessment, that first section, we changed it and it's now a client assessment. You'll notice that the new pre-admission assessment on paper is a lot of information, and somewhere in all that information, it's incorporated into matrix. So the pre-admission assessment is all your gathering of that person's history. It's also doing that good first nursing assessment. And then when you sit down to put it all into matrix, whether it's an elite, whether it's in a form, whether it's in this evaluation, all those pieces are going to be somewhere in here. So the first set of questions is, what assessment is it? And so we did update it to say initial has to be an RN, a 14-day has to be an RN, both are face-to-face. If you do a telecommunication for some reason, which you very well could, I suppose, if something happened, such as COVID, then I would just note it in your note here that it was a telecommunication visit. Again, you have your 90-day, you have your change of condition, and then now they want to see vital signs. Whether you get the most recent and add them in or you take them yourself during your visit, up to you. But they do want to see the vital signs in that quarterly assessment and the initial. So you will just go ahead and put it in. So it's just going to be the temp is 97.4. So you'll fill in all the questions. Each time you'll be changing them. And then the current weight. So you want to know what the current weight is, but you also want to indicate if they've had any since the last assessment. You're really looking at for a change and are we doing a good evaluation on that resident. And then of course, are they receiving psychotropic meds? There's a new push that we're looking at psychotropics in assisted living. So here, the quick notes aren't really for you to use, but they're really for you to say, are they using PRNs? How often? Make a little summary. So on an antidepressant, I don't know why my capital's on. It's scheduled, and maybe I already know they're on lowest effective dose. I can write that here. Or maybe I notice that the doctor really hasn't addressed this in 6 months. So maybe it's on the doctor notification board to review next visit. Something so that you know that you checked, you're doing something about if they're receiving any psychotropic medication. Then you want to ask the resident how they're sleeping. Has it been a change in the last 14, 90 days assessment? You want to write your notes, whatever that visit indicated. You want to talk to them about their fluid at their meals, how their intake is. You want to check with staff. Are they noting anything? And maybe we don't know because they're not really on scheduled services. That's okay too. You would just indicate it that the resident doesn't feel like they have any problems. You don't see any indications. If we did labs and their labs are normal, you could say labs done on whatever date. So this is your chance to kind of do that clinical piece. You can write anything in here. You want to review the chart, see if they've had any recent infections and make a little notation on that. And then these are the 3 questions that they want us asking every time. What do I need to know how to best care for you? Has anything changed since we last met? So if this is a reassessment, and maybe last time they said, be on time for my morning coffee, I can remind them that last time we met, you said it was important that we're on time for your morning coffee. Has that changed? Have we been doing a good job? So this is kind of that conversation now that we're having with the resident. And then what means most to you right now? Maybe it's visiting with others because of COVID. Maybe, you know, that made a difference now. So now, you know, activities is more important than it used to be. So you're having that conversation again and you're documenting it here. And then how might you like me or any staff to address you? So maybe my nickname is Missy. And so I want to note that here. And then we want to check back every 90 days or every assessment to see if that has changed, if that's still important for you. Then we want to make sure we're reviewing medical, dental, any visits from hospice, any OT-PT notes, anything from that last that could have made a change. We want to make sure that if there was a new diagnosis, we put it on the face sheet. If there was a new allergy that came through, we put that onto the face sheet. And so as you're reviewing these 3 areas, I might want to put new allergy, noted, updated, face sheet. And then maybe I'll just write it was an aspirin, a new allergy to aspirin. So it will notify you that any new diagnosis or allergies to update the face sheet and the service plan as needed. So now it's more of a head to toe assessment as we're going into these evaluations. Again, orientation, we had changed every question here. Oh, I see 22, I gotta take that out. And we had this new admission cognitive screening tool that you see here. I'll make sure it comes out before tomorrow, but it wasn't approved, so we had to change it all back to the original. So all these questions you're gonna have to re-answer, and I apologize for that inconvenience for you guys. And then you'll use the same notes that you always used before. Wandering did not change, although some of the quick notes we kind of updated a little bit to see if that would make any difference. So there's some things in here that you might want to go ahead and come in and look at for quick notes. Same with behaviors, nothing really changed in here. We did add a couple new quick notes to that, so you can come in here and look at those. And same with verbal aggression. I think we updated some of the quick notes. Communication did not change. Life enrichment, this is now a forced question. It will be picked for you because we noticed that a lot of people were bypassing it. And part of the problem is not necessarily that nursing has to fill it out, but they're not quite sure how the flow works. So once you pick this question, now that it's a picked question for you, this person-centered wellness questionnaire opens up. And that's a required form that we all have to fill out on everybody. Starts with paper on that, you know, first visit, and we give them all that information. And when they come back, the nursing staff only has to fill one question out. So if they only know my name is Fred, call me Freddie, whatever, you can do 1 or 2, then just go ahead and save it and come out of it. Once you're out and it refreshes, it is okay. It will let you finalize now. When your wellness team or your managers, who's ever gonna fill out this form, they can fill it out through the form section. They're not gonna come in the evaluation and fill it out. They're gonna fill it out themselves. So on day 14, when I open this new assessment and I open this person-centered wellness questionnaire, I will see what they filled out. It will pull the last one in for me. So that's kind of the hope of our flow will be, is that the nurse will just open it to start it. We'll finalize our evaluation. The activity people can come in through the forms. They can fill it out, have it closed by day 14. So when I'm opening up day 14, it's all filled out and I can review it and then incorporate any information somewhere into my service plan if needed. Is there any questions on number 44? Because I know we've had a lot of confusion. I also do have a video now on eSource. Maybe I'll just review that with you guys real quick. On eSource, under housing, and then to housing documents, there is a matrix, senior living tools and videos. And I do have one for a workflow for activity staff. And so it is housekeeping. I just saw it, and of course my eyes are not letting me see it. Oh, matrix activity or wellness workflow. It's a 20-minute video that your activity staff can watch, and it'll walk them through how to use Care Assist and the evaluation. Or the forms, I should say. Smoking, we did not change any questions there. ADLs, we did put a little more of the, I'm sorry, I'm not in ADLs, I'm in sensory. We didn't change anything in sensory. ADLs, we did update some of the quick notes for some of your memory care residents to be a little more person-centered. So you can look at these quick notes. Again, please use the estimated time. If you don't want to use the estimated time in the quick note, one thing you can do is when you pick and you're scheduling the time and it calculates for you, you can put the duration here, which is the same. The duration is the estimated time that we have. One thing you're going to note through the ADL section, through most sections now, you can calculate the points yourself. So it will calculate in any scheduling piece. But if I felt for some reason this person is just taking longer because they have Parkinson's, although they don't need a lot of help, but they need a lot of my time, I can go ahead and I can make sure that my time is matching the points. So you can now go ahead and calculate a little more of your time and be a little more person-centered on that. You'll see 62 and 63 are new additions. It is an other daily task or other weekly task. Someone wanted to put in something about filling a dehumidifier or other items. So there's some extra things. If you pick that daily one, it'll default to daily. You can put what it is, it'll calculate for you. You can schedule just like you would. And then you have the ability to free type whatever it is that you want to free type. So just giving us a little more flexibility. And then there is a weekly one. So if it's weekly, I can do it 3 times a week and it'll calculate 3 times a week. But again, you know, if you're oh, it didn't send me a message. If it's 3 times a week, remember we have to divide it by 7 because it is a weekly task. So it would not be 45 points. It would be 45 divided by 7. And I'll put a little notation up when that closes to remember to do that. So it would be 6 points. And we just round it off. Bathing, we did not change anything. We updated a few of the quick notes for you, just to make sure that they were a little more person-centered, more dementia-related in here for you. Bathroom assistance, again, some of the quick notes are a little updated. Being a little more specific because it's so important now that we're very specific in our service plans and not just saying assist with cares. They really want to see that definition of exactly what we're doing. The call pendant, we did update the quick notes. We've been having a lot of feedback from surveyors, and what they want to see is, did we demonstrate how to use a call pendant? Do they know when to use it? Do they understand, is there anything that maybe they're not going to use it? They're going to put it in a drawer, and they told us that, and so we educated them. Can they use it all the time? But you know, sometimes they just don't, so we set up safety checks. So it's those kind of details that they want to start seeing in our service plans. So we kind of updated that a little bit for you.
Hey, Linda.
Yes.
Is there a spot to care plan it out? Because you wouldn't necessarily check that button because they're not going to have one. Does that make sense?
Can you
So that where you are indicating that they have the 24-hour summoning device. Yeah. So let's say they're not going to have one. You wouldn't necessarily check that box. Correct. Indicating they have it. Because right. If you check that box, it looks like they have one. Do you understand what I'm saying?
You could also write refused and offered.
Okay.
I mean, it's kind of up to you how you want to use it. If they don't have one, then no, you don't necessarily have to click the box, but maybe I want the staff to know, because remember, the staff can look at anything I put in here. So the staff might need to know that I did offer them one and they just don't want it.
But like for the memory care people that aren't going to use it.
But some memory care do have them.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So that's kind of specific to a facility. Some of our memory cares do have pendants for those that can use them, and we do the assessment for that if we feel like they can manage one or not. So that would be up to your facility. Again, at the end here, you have your daily weights, your weekly weights. Just a notation that these really go on the EMAR, and we're just getting the points here. So again, you have to calculate your points for you. We won't make this schedule any longer, so the aides don't have to sign it off on their to-do list. And you can just write C EMAR, but it's for the service plan so that we can show the families where are we getting our points and what does that mean. So you do need to know in your marketing, is a monthly weight included or is it not included in your marketing? So
we can't see the evaluation anymore.
Pardon me?
We can't see the evaluation anymore.
Oh, hang on. Am I sharing now?
Yes.
Thanks.
Yes, you are. Yeah.
So the vitals again will go on the EMAR, but we will obtain the points here, and then you will calculate your points. And you'll have to manually calculate them. And the monthly one did come on. I'll take the monthly one out. And then we have other delegated weekly tasks or other delegated daily tasks. So if you want to write in here what's delegated to the unlicensed staff, so it's very clear as in your therapy management plan, you can do it here. Or there's just a regular weekly task or other daily tasks. Again, under your delegated tasks, there are notations of what that might be. So maybe they have an ostomy or oxygen and just want something different outside of, maybe it's a fluid restriction that you've given them information about, then you can go ahead and use those. So we added a lot of extra things. It could be a diagnosis, you know, of something new and you just want the staff to be aware of that. That's what these extra things are for. Mobility really didn't change, except for we did add the routine positioning in a chair or bed now, so that you can use those turn and repositions every 2 hours here. I know that somehow got missed on the last one. Under devices, we did combine some of this. So walker, cane, any device used for mobility can be here. Anything on the bed would be 102. But then we have a safety feature. So if you want to click on safety feature now and you want like a bed alarm or a high-low bed or a door alarm on at night, whatever it is that you're using for safety features, you can actually put it here also. And then the aides would have to sign off that they are following that. Stability falls, nothing really changed on that, but just be aware the falls risk 2.2 that I've had out, but I couldn't get it out of the old evaluation because there's so many that aren't finalized. I was able to get the new one in, so 2.2 is out. I can show you what that looks like. We now changed some of the questions. NA, unable to perform, might have been one. Medications, unknown, do not manage medications was added so that we don't know the number of meds. So we can skip that then. Any change of medication in the past, it would still say unknown, we don't manage medications. I believe the systolic line standing blood pressure was always not completed for this resident. I don't think we added anything there. I think that was the only changes. So now that it's out, thank goodness. Diet, we did do a physical assessment for nutritional or disease process that may affect nutrition. So in here, it's more, do you have a disease or do you have dentures that aren't fitting or something that's affecting the nutritional intake of your resident? Maybe it's Parkinson's, so they're having trouble swallowing. Just like a little notation for staff to kind of know about their diet. It might be a renal diet if you have people that go to dialysis and they have special things that you want to note there. Any questions so far? We're going to get into the medications. The med treatments, we did do a lot of changes for you. So the first thing we changed was we identified 121 a little bit better instead of that 2-point med setup. It's really about we only keeping a list of medications accurate in matrix because you're followed by an on-site doctor. And so that's part of what he needs in order to follow you here. And we might order meds, but as soon as they come, we just bring them to your room. We don't manage anything. That's what 2 points is. As soon as we're either putting it in a med box or a med planner or getting cards and putting them in the room or whatever, and the staff are either reminding or giving, or they take them themselves, but we set them up, then it's either 122 or 123. Here it's usually weekly and it's usually 1 time a week. Don't forget we have to change resident assistant to the licensed nurse. And then we changed the quick note a little bit. I think the quality and assurance check just was confusing for some nurses. So it's now a medication reconciliation or a med check. The licensed nurse reviews the MAR, compliance, PRN usage. They're checking the narcotics. They're making sure we don't have any theft going on, checking for expired meds. That is a weekly service that Benedictine made it our standard of practice. And we do need the nurses to do that when our unlicensed staff are administering meds. Part of the med treatment plan is to also note if we have special storage of medications. So anything, if I say that at the end of my service plan, I keep my meds in a med cart, but when is special storage indicated? Well, if I have to have a separate place because it's a chemo drug or it requires refrigeration, so the backup is kept in a refrigerator with a lock in the med room, I do need to indicate that. It needs to be somewhere in the service plan because it's part of the regulation. And then another thing that the assisted living staff need to be aware of, that every time we go in the room, we are scanning the room if we're managing meds to see if they have any meds that we don't know about. So that is part of our thing that we need to do every time we walk in the room, and the aides need to also note that that's part of their job also. So if they see Tums sitting out, they need to let the nurse know that so-and-so has Tums sitting out, and then the nurse needs to say, well, we need to get an order that they can self-administer those Tums, and we need to make sure that they can manage that and they understand when to take them.
Is there a way to get that built into their quick notes of when they are going in and administering meds?
So it's in the service plan. So let me explain. So we'll get to them in a minute. And then your pop-up that this is a weekly service by the RA and not the, or not the RA, but the nurse. And the med management, we did update. And so we kind of updated and made sure that the annual assessment is a face-to-face. I would put in the date of the last annual assessment. So every time we monitor that, so if your LPN is doing that 90-day, she knows to alert the RN that the RN really needs to do this because it's time. If it was an LPN, she can just answer no here. It's not an RN, but we changed this to say self-able, needs reminders, or staff administer. So can the client state the name of the medication? Yep, self, they are able, needs some reminders. So maybe I have to remind them what the med is. However I remind it, if I put it in a med planner and then they're able to take it, and I labeled the med planner, that would be needs reminders. Client knows what each med is for. Self, yes. Needs a reminder. Staff assist, not applicable. And so these were just updated a little bit. So you'll have to go through these the next time you do your 90 days. There'll be questions added in. And then there's always one in here that is near the end. Able to call for refills. We put in the NA here, family, self. Handling prescriptions, there was not an NA before, there is now, so we changed some of the verbiage in these areas. No problems noted was added for problem areas identified because you had to pick one even though there wasn't anything that applied to that resident. Medications for diversion, has no medications at risk for diversion was added. Meds are locked up and nurse does medication check weekly. That was added. So this one you'll have to go through the first time and really kind of zip up the questions. I don't know what's going to copy over. So just make sure you guys are reviewing that one pretty close. The next section now, we did change so that it is not going to show up in Care Assist for the aides to sign off or the nurses. So in some homes, the nurses pass all the meds. And so we did check with leading age and they didn't feel like we had to sign the service because we could prove it by the MAR how many times a day. The staff reminders, you would want to make sure you pick the quick notes because the aides will see it on the service plan. So to answer that previous question, yes, they also are going to be aware that they have to note any medication supplements that are being used by the residents and they're not included in that assessment, that we must notify the registered nurse. So you will pick that quick note going forward. Now, when we are doing the staff administering, you need to pick the quick note now of how many med passes per day and how many points that's generating. It's going to generate here, but we have to explain through the service plan when the residents are signing how we're getting to those points. So if I have 3 med passes a day, I know 3 times 10 is 30 points. I have to come up here and I have to put the 30 in. If I don't have any of those med passes, which we never got credit for people who get like a Fosamax once a week. Now, if I have 1 additional med pass that is only weekly, but it's away from those other 3, I know that's 2 points, and then I can come here and I can get 32 points. And I could write why. So that I know when we're reviewing their service plan, it's right here for me to tell the family. And then of course, we would put in the quick notes. So that's what it's going to look like now. And the aides will no longer have to sign each med pass off. Is there any questions about that? And I put a notification up here too that you need to calculate your points and what it is so you don't forget. So I should see my calculated points here. We have to do a good job at this. I'll have to put it back in the next time because we can't lose money. And again, the resistive taking meds, you're going to calculate yourself. We're going to say this only happens or only resistive at night. So maybe just one time I have to come in here and indicate that. I can write sundowning causes this to happen on evening med pass. Same with diabetes. I did the same thing. You're going to calculate yourself. You're going to know that an insulin and an Accu-Check is 1 service. And so if I have QID Accu-Checks and TID insulin, it is only 4. And it says right here an Accu-Check as 1 service. Combine them. Is there any questions on that section? And if you need help, you know, you can call me because it will be different. So I want to make sure that we all really understand that. So these questions are probably not going to copy over. We're going to have to make sure that we have the correct med passes. The first time through, I would go very slow and make sure you're getting everything. I didn't make any changes to third-party payers. I didn't make any changes to pain. Again, know your marketing material for your bed linen changes and your laundry. Your vulnerable adult area, the areas of vulnerability are the same. I think as an overall general suggestion, I would pay more attention to this because I do know the last few surveys, people in the ALs, they're really zeroing in on this and wanting to see a better job. Well, someone will have macular degeneration, but we didn't pick it on their vulnerability and we didn't write anything about that. For the individual abuse prevention plan, this will be new. There are 4 questions that were added. So is the client susceptible to sexual abuse? When you click that, you're gonna see 3 different things that you could use. So if you pick the quick note, make sure you're looking at it and editing it to what you think it should be. You need to have specific measurements to minimize the risk of abuse for each area. So if it's a lack of understanding, you need to write why, what you're going to do about it, and then if a referral was made. I would personally, if I would say none if there's none. None noted. And then there's the whole reasoning behind what they want you to do for this. So I'll let you guys read that. But I would do a really good job through my vulnerability section because they're really zeroing in. So if they have a lot of falls, I would really get into the mobility and the risk for falls here and really do a good job on that. Of course, there's all the same questions where there are signs of maltreatment. And so these questions didn't really change. And then you'll see I took out the medication treatment plan from here. It's removed and now you see something called other. Part of the requirement now is that we have to identify if we have a limitation on the Bill of Rights. So with COVID and everything, the biggest thing I can think of is when we're restricting freedom to visitors for COVID reasons. We need to have that now in our service plan. If they had C. diff, I thought, okay, that's one of our major things. If someone has C. diff, they can't come out. They can't really go to activities if they're, you know, not managing it. If they're incontinent, they have to stay in their room. I'm sure there's other reasons why we would have to not give them their, I can think of like financially, if we can't give them more than 1 pop a day because of diabetes or something, or family states that we can only give them $10. We want to have that somewhere now in our plan of care. And I know caseworkers sometimes write that on their Minnesota Choices now that comes through. You can copy and paste those and put them in here if it's a limitation of their Bill of Rights. We should be incorporating whatever they write into our evaluations, so not a bad place. Under other, we also have what we need for evacuation for assistance. So we need to really state, like, if they need assistance, how do I identify that? How do I get that to the staff? Well, because it's on their service plan. Not that we would have time in an emergency, but it's a requirement. So this is where we're going to put it. Our emergency contact info, I took that off the back page of your service plan when you printed it. Is now here. So when they fill that out during their initial lease signing, where they now put their emergency contact person on that sheet, we can now put it here and then it'll copy over so we won't have to handwrite that in each time. But I would make sure that that is still the person every 90 days, like you still have Carol here for your emergency contact. Are we still okay with that? Because it doesn't have to be a POA. It just has to be someone that can make a decision in an emergency that they picked. So then you have to state that you reviewed the individual medication management plan, that you reviewed the individual treatment therapy plan, which is kind of scattered throughout the eval and at the end, that you reviewed the individual abuse prevention plan, and that you reviewed the evaluation and the service plan. So the evaluation is all the questions, and then the service plan, of course, is embedded in that also. Any questions about this evaluation? And then we're going to go over to the service plan.
Linda, I have a question. I'm not sure if it's specifically related to the current topic.
Yeah.
But if a resident wants a nurse visit charge or a nurse visit for like nail care every 3 weeks, would everything we do for the residents is supposed to be on the service plan as part of their care plan, but they don't want it added to the service plan because they don't want to go to a different level of care. So they just want a nurse one-time charge, but it's an ongoing care. How would we manage
So
that?
it's scheduled, but they don't want it scheduled because of a point factor.
Right.
So they're kind of playing the numbers game.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I would just say if it's scheduled, it has to go in the plan and it has to be points. That's how we do it. Because then you're going to start having a lot of these outside charges.
Yeah.
And, you know, if they're in a higher level, they have a little room anyway. If they're in a lower level, then I would make them responsible. Then you're going to have to put on your call light every week and request it.
Right. That's what I was thinking, that they would have to, I wouldn't order it. I wouldn't schedule it. They would just have to push the pendant and request it.
And then you would do it if they have to know then that day might be too busy. So it might not be the day they want it either, which is kind of giving you a little more power to make them schedule it, because you don't want it to be convenient for them, because it's really hard to do those a la cartes and get your staffing right. And
right. Yeah, so, exactly. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Sounds good. I'll reevaluate.
So don't make it too easy for them.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. There's always something to kind of talk and throw out there and kind of discuss, which is what I love about assisted living, because there's no black and white. There's always something that comes up that's very out of the box, and just kind of sitting down and planning where it maybe works better, or, you know, what's another facility doing. That's why I like to meet monthly and go through stuff and have that conversation with you guys, because I think it helps everybody. So I did kind of poll a few of the nurses. I'm sorry if I didn't include everybody, but this was kind of something that came up. They opened up some room for me at the back end of the service plan so we could remove those questions and quick notes from creating a treatment management plan and a med management plan. But they didn't open up it enough at the end of the service plan. And then I found room that they opened up at the beginning of the service plan. So I did put the treatment therapy plan at the beginning. You need to read through this and make sure that you know what's in here, because it's important that you know your therapy management plan. So anything, you'll notice here that we said your services will be recorded in your EMR. They will be specific instructions to a delegated task. So that's why it's important. If you have an AccuCheck on the EMR, They are unlicensed staff, so you actually have to say white finger with alcohol pad, poke finger with lancet, discarding garbage. You need to be detailed because you're working with unlicensed staff. That with a therapy, OT, PT recommendation for a walking program, it should state right in the order exactly on the service plan what therapy recommended. So kind of read through that. And then down under your med management here, it's hopefully I got these right, so please check. The third paragraph down, the second bullet, it's a standard practice of Benedictine to store meds in the resident's room with a locked cupboard and utilizing a secondary locked storage system for controlled substances. Some of you have the other one that says the med cart. Make sure I didn't miss any communities that have the med cart or the room. You know, I have 20 of your communities to do, so I just hope I got them all right. So please double check that tomorrow or today. I have them all done. This part of it is all done. So to talk through the whole service plan, at the end is your contingency plan. If your community has anything else that you want your contingency plan, this is just a basic. If you want it enhanced, you can let me know how you want it to read. I'd be more than happy to put it into your community. And then you'll see you get your service plan. You'll see that all the services are here. All your notes will be here. Your scheduling piece will be here just like it used to be. And then you have your point summary. So we're meeting all those requirements. We have up here who's doing the care. We have the schedule of the care, and then we have identified where the points are, and then the level, and then here's your pricing at the end. You'll see here now we have the emergency services. I filled this out for you. Emergency medical services will not be summoned if they're these items. And we have orders to not call 911 except for trauma. But if it's different here, then I would cross out except trauma, and I would put other if there's an exception that's different. I also upgraded this weekly service when they're not in a level for those that have no daily services and they just have that weekly thing, to put the day of the week here, because that does make a difference for the billing people. If it's a Friday, they're probably going to hit 3 times a month on those months that have 3 Fridays. So it might be easier for billing not have to figure that out and not have to go up into the service schedule and see what day of the week it is. And then under your care coordination fee, I did put in everything that's included in that, but please make sure I didn't mess up if you get quarterly, weekly, monthly vitals included in your care coordination fee. If you could go back to your marketing and just double check this. And you'll have to do it for every care setting. So check an AL1, check an IL1, and check a memory care one for me. And then the ombudsman information and that they acknowledge, and then your signatures. So I'm hoping this looks a little bit nicer than it used to and taking all that stuff out of questions. Any questions on the service plan? All right, starting tomorrow, you can start using the 3.2 eval, but I do need all evaluations and service plans closed by 5 o'clock today. There's still quite a few that are open. So please, before you go home, do a quick check of your in progress, and they all need to be finalized. both the eval and the service plan, so I can roll this 3.2 out. Otherwise, it won't copy over. So I'll give you till 5 o'clock. And we got done pretty early, so I was expecting this to go a little bit longer, so you guys get a lot of time back.